Don't try convince the customer from the certain country to buy exactly in the same way like in your mother country. For example, the Czech customer have different expectations. Most of the purchases they pay only when they see the box. We had to change our approach. I'm a sports shooter. This is something which requires to be precise, to be calm. If you're in a position to shoot, then you need to be really focused on only this thing.
Learn from the best with Unpacking Success, the DHL e-commerce podcast with Pablo Ciano.
Welcome to another edition of Unpacking Success, the podcast where we go beyond the headlines to explore the people and the platforms that are shaping the logistics of e-commerce around the world. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me a leader in the e-commerce business, Jakub Kłoczewiak. He is the COO of Allegro. Allegro is one of the leading platforms in Poland. Jakub, many thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me here.
Very good. As you know, in the Unpacking Success podcast, we try to go beyond the headlines and try to deep dive a little bit into what is really shaping the world of e-commerce logistics, technologies, trends, customer preferences. And of course, these type of things begin about knowing the person and the leaders. In this case, you have had an impressive career, not only in Allegro, but before Allegro in Orange, a telecom company in Poland. And I wanted to go back a little bit in time and try to reconnect with those early days in Orange, if you're okay with that.
We can start from the Orange, of course.
Excellent. And which, by the way, Orange, Allegro is also Orange company, right?
Very similar color
so
of the brands.
You kept the colors in consistency.
Yes.
Least, right? So in your early career in Orange, you were involved in customer service, customer experience. You continued that focus throughout Allegro in the early days. So I wanted to ask you, how has that type of early days of getting very close to the customer, focusing on customer experience and customer service, how has that shaped your view when you went into operations and into logistics?
It's a great question. Thank you. So it always starts from the customer. So I learned at Orange time, but even before Orange, working in a banking system as a clerk in a bank office, serving daily the customers, that their satisfaction is a key point, right? And at Orange, I learned how to measure it, how to react with the customers, how to serve them, how to be ready for all the things the customer needs and to solve all the problems the customer may have, right? So in operations is quite similar around the businesses, right? And the end of the day is how to satisfy the customer, to deliver the letter, to deliver the parcel, to deliver the service, to make sure the telephone line is working, to make sure that the customer complaint is solved. So yes, the current business as Allegro, it's e-commerce. Orange was the telecommunication services, but still the common denominator is the customer.
And when you take all of this experience and apply it to operations, do you think that gave you any specific skills that makes you today a better operator?
I think attentions to the single customer threats and the needs. I mean, I learned that working in operations, you cannot only look on the average statistics. You need to go down and to see what is lagging behind, and if some KPIs like NTS or on time are not really on a satisfied level, we have to go down and see where is the problem. And this is always the situation. I can give you an example. I have introduced in my operations the rule. We measure the NPS. Each time we have a negative score, which is between 0 and 6. So the people that are not unsatisfied with the service, we call them back and ask why. What's happened there? And in most of the cases, people are positively surprised with this call, and we can really change the customer perception from the someone who is not promoting the company and brand to someone who thinks, yes, they care. And if we solve the problem, if we give the call to the customer, we have then promoters.
Very good. So fast forward from the early days with Orange to Allegro. Today, you manage a much bigger portfolio, right? Today, you manage still customer experience, if I'm not wrong, but also operations, supply chain, fulfillment, logistics, also some areas like safety and
Trust and safety, right?
so it's a much bigger portfolio. How do you do to make sure that everyone in that bigger responsibility has the same sensitivity to customer experience as you have?
Yes, this is about the leaders. Each of the area you mentioned has a great leader who manages the operations, right? I try to select the leaders with a common DNA. So customer has to be there. Customer interest, customer focus has to be there all the time. So during a recruitment process, I ask a lot of questions about what is her approach toward the customer problem solving, customer perception, and so on. And I try to be with the people they are really very sensitive on this aspects. So eventually, if you manage trust and safety, you want to protect the platform and the customers against the counterfeits or against the danger goods or not allowed by the law to be listed in a certain country. So this is about the seller operations. So how to select the selection, so the goods from the seller and not to be listed. But, if something cannot be listed in Poland, but sometimes can be listed in Czechia. So it's about how to explain the seller, hey, dear seller, I cannot allow you to list this item in Poland, but no problem, it can be listed in Czechia. So it's not only be denying the seller, but also clarifying why the decision is like that.
And this is a question that I have asking to all the leaders like you in e-commerce. When you think about customer experience and quality, do you think first about the merchant or the consumer?
Both. Really?
Both.
Yes. During this podcast, when I mention customer, I think seller and buyer. Yeah, of course they have a different needs, different expectation, and different reasons why they are on the platform. The sellers, they really want to make a business there, right? They want to have their product be listed, be sold, be promoted, and this is something which Allegro gives. We have 160,000 sellers. They are listing their goods daily on Allegro, and almost 21 million active buyers. So our business is to combine both sides, right? Sellers and the buyers, and to show them, hey, this is a great place to buy. You have a great selection of goods. Then we manage the price. So we try to be not only selection, very good perceived, but also competitive prices. And convenience, the last e-commerce factor, which is, by the way, delivery, one of the most important aspects there, right?
And have you ever experienced a dilemma when you needed to make a decision where the two interests of the two key players, customers and merchants, were in conflict, and you have to face a decision where, well, maybe we do this for the merchants, the consumers might not totally like it, but for the long run, bigger picture is good to all the other way around. Have you ever faced that dilemma?
Yes, it's actually quite often when we talk about the buyer protection program. So you are the seller. You sold me something. I'm the buyer. I'm not satisfied. I want to retain, sending back, right? So in Poland, you have a 14 days legal period when you can send back the good. After this is up to the seller decision whether he wants to take it back and give you money back or not. So, but imagine that after 3 weeks, you decided to send it back. And then the seller said, no, I will not give you money back. And we need to decide what to do with this case, right? In most of the cases, we give the money back as Allegro to the customers. And, we have to admit that the seller has the right not to send money back. But on the other hand, we want to satisfy the customer. So this is kind of a balance, right? And we need to be there and to judge.
So we talk a little bit about the early days in customer service, customer experience, and how now you have evolved into Allegro, and how all of that has shaped the way that you think about logistics and operations in a much bigger portfolio now with everything that you're doing. How do you keep a good pulse on the customer experience and the customer needs? So you mentioned NPS. We also in DHL have been applying NPS for a long time, and as you are saying, we love this opportunity to call the detractors, anyone that is given as a rating between 0 and 6. We'd like to say that, first of all, if we reach out to them and we can address their needs and their concerns, those are going to be becoming a promoter for life. Those type of customers are the ones that we know that we can convert them as a promoter for a long time. But that is only one piece of what we would consider the voice of the customer. In DHL, we like to have multiple sources of voice of the customer. One, of course, is NPS. The other one is complaints, claims, billing quality issues. So it's a very, 360 type of rounded way to capture the voice of the customer. How do you do that in Allegro besides NPS?
All right. So we see whole the customer journey from the onboarding. So I set the account on Allegro, and then we ask you, okay, how difficult was to set up the account? So you give me the first feedback. Okay, so creating an account wasn't so easy. So I ask you why. And then we improve this touch point, right? And then you have an account, you search. So we ask you how we are satisfied with the search. Was it easy to search and find something? So findability is another touch point we measure and ask the customer about the feedbacks. If you find something, you put it to the basket and then you want to buy it. So how satisfied you are with the payment? Was it easy to pay? Variety of the payment methods or not? If not, what can be improved? And then is delivery, right? Okay, are you satisfied with, for example, delivery by DHL or not? If yes, great. If not, how can be improved, right? And then you have post-purchase experience. So, everything which can happen after the purchase, including returns, but also guarantee, repairs, and so on. So we see all the customer journey, we split into the touch points, and we ask the customer about the feedbacks. NPS one of the feedback, but frequency is the other one. If we see that customer is frequently coming back to Allegro and buying the things, that is obvious proof that they like the way to buy on Allegro. If frequency is lower, then we think why is lower, what can be improved, how we can encourage the customer to come back to us, and so on. So in the logistics, beside the NPS, there is an on-time delivery, of course, right? We measure it daily, right?
And you have very good partners to help you with that, right?
Yes. For example, DHL is one of the great partners with great results, and we try to check is on time versus customer perception. If this is on time, but the customer score low, maybe it's not a problem of being on time, but the courier behavior, or maybe the parcel was broken during a transportation. So, working on the customer experience is not only on the average statistics; it's really diving to the details, right, and to see the reasons of customer reaction and behavior and scoring and understand this. This is a crucial point. We called at Allegro this way of thinking about input management. So those are input metrics, right? Everything which is from the customer. And then we work on these inputs to improve the process.
Excellent. And I love that concept of not managing the company based on averages, because I fully agree with you. Averages, to some extent, could be the very starting point of pointing in certain direction. But then when we operate, like, again, you know our business pretty well. We operate all over the world. We have thousands of delivery depots and, thousands of routes around the world. And we need to look into one by one into those, because as always, the 80-20 rule, where you have some few delivery depots or operations that are performing really well and some others that are not. And of course, that is an ongoing, permanent looking into where we can raise the average, but the average is raised only when we can focus on those areas of opportunity. So when you do that type of looking into the customer experience and all the KPIs that you are measuring, the full customer journey, do you compare that against your competition?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So over time, we have a new competitors entering our market. We checked what is the customer experience out of this, how the customer perceive the competitors' journey, let's say. So we do exactly what we do for Allegro. I don't know, the other competitors came into the Poland a couple of years ago, so we check how to set up the account, how easy or how difficult it is to do it. And all the journey after, we check and compare to Allegro. And we see whether we are on a good trajectory, so we are better or worse. If worse, we see why. And sometimes we try to implement some improvements based on the inputs or the experience of the competitors. And I know the others are doing the same. So I think what is common for this business is that all the e-commerce players, they know that to win the customer hearts, you need to improve the processes behind, right? And it's not about only the brand itself, but about the convenience and the selection and the price. So all the competitors are doing more or less the same job to be better and better for the customers.
We will talk more about competition in a minute because, as you and I discussed, it's interesting to see what's going on in the marketplace. But before we go there, wrapping up a little bit the customer preference, what are the latest preferences or changes that you are seeing in consumers and also maybe merchants as well? But is there anything going on in the way that they do business or in what they are preferring these days that is worth talking about?
Let's say 15 years ago, it was mainly Allegro in Poland, right? So the average customer experience of Polish customers were based on what Allegro was doing at that time. Over time, the other competitors came to the country, or they just been created in Poland, right? And the customer could compare an experience from the different marketplaces and the vertical players, right? Even IKEA opened their online sales. The traditional in-store purchase has been changed into the online sales, right? So the customer, they have a greater choice and the greater comparison, right? They became much more demanding. Something which was fine not to do for customers 15 years ago, now it's prohibited. Now we have to improve this process. They know that the e-commerce process can be really seamless. If you buy on the Facebook something, right, and nobody asks you about anything, you just touch the button and the parcel is arriving, right? Of course, the post-purchase experience sometimes is very much disappointing because you are not satisfied with the quality of the product, with the content or whatever, but overall effort you have to do to purchase is quite low. So the customer expectation increased.
And it's impossible to not talk about AI these days. So there are two things that, every single headline is covering. One is AI and the other one is tariffs. So we will talk about tariffs in a minute, but talking about customer experience and AI, yesterday we were talking and I was sharing with you that a colleague here in the company told me that he had the shopping list for his back-to-school supplies. He took a picture, loaded into his agent in ChatGPT, and the agent took care of finding online the best offers, the best options, matching quality and price, and he ended up with everything being done by his agent in ChatGPT for such a simple task as back-to-school supplies. How do you see AI potentially changing the way that Allegro is doing business?
Massively. You mentioned about the consumer agent, so the assistant of purchase, right? But it's going to be assistant of the medical diagnosis, assistant of the how to repair my car, assistant of I want to go abroad, what is the best destination. So sooner or later, we'll have as a consumer, the AI assistants able to advise us on either pre-select or even select sometimes the things we need for our life, right? That's going to be including the purchases, which probably going to be one of the easiest thing, right? So we need to be ready and we need to create the seller's assistants, AI assistants. And this is the game and this is the job we are doing now. So we anticipate that in the future going to be a consumer assistants, purchase assistants. So we are creating the seller assistants, the AI algorithm, which will talk with a consumer AI algorithm. Those together will...
Agent talking to agent.
Unfortunately, that's going to be a future, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe fortunately, if the quality and the quality of the choice and the customer satisfaction gonna be met at the end of the day. So why not? But we need to make sure that the purchase assistant of customer will select item which is allowed to be listed in the country with a quality of the product which is met, and all the requirements which are in front of the retail sales in the certain place, right?
We usually tend to think in terms of the agentic AI helping consumers, but also as you're describing, it will on the other side help the merchants customize better or react faster or better to whatever is needed to satisfy the consumer needs. So that is a very interesting perspective. A significant portion of your strategy has been besides of course customer experience, has been the diversification in terms of service lines that you are offering. So it's not only about, of course, what you sell in the marketplace and enable merchants, but it's also the fulfillment services that you offer, Some time ago, you launched Allegro Pay, which is, of course, the entire integration for payment. Now you also have been expanding internationally. So looking a little bit about your strategy and the expansion of different service offerings, maybe you can expand a little bit on that, how important it is for you to continue expanding services, and how does that also relate to the international expansion?
The marketplace is a core business, right? I mean, Allegro has been created 25 years ago. So since that time, we evolved from the regular marketplace to fintech as well. So we offer payment services, as you said, the logistics services, Allegro Delivery, and fulfillment operations, right? And yes, this is something which we think it's required to run the business today. So Allegro offers the customers the best way to pay for the purchases, the best way how to be delivered, how to the goods gonna be delivered to the customers, and for the sellers, which is another type of the customer, right? Like I mentioned at the beginning, we offer fulfillment operations because not always the sellers, they are ready to fulfill everything professionally in their warehouse. Sometimes at the beginning is easier to give fulfillment somebody else, like for Allegro, right? And this is everything to improve the convenience for both sides, consumer and the sellers. Regarding geography, right, in 2024, we have expanded from Poland to Czechia, Hungary, and Slovakia. And we have a business there. I think this is just a beginning. We think about the further expansion to the other countries. We think that CE countries, so Central Eastern Europe, they are the one we should be present definitely. They are our neighbors. They are our natural destinations. And we allow sellers from Poland to sell their goods in those countries and vice versa. So Czech sellers can sell the goods in Poland, for example. So I think this is win-win for both sides.
Interesting. Although international expansion is not that easy, right? Because we have experienced it our own way, unless you are talking about global networks. So, for example, our DHL Express business covers 220 countries around the world. Barriers to entry are super high because you need to have a global network connecting all of those countries and a very powerful aviation capability. But then when you go to the local deliveries, as you know, we are doing in many countries as well, you have all the local competitors, and each of them have a different type of competitive advantage, and not always the global players are present. So it's a little bit of country by country. So far, what have you learned in terms of international expansion? What worked really well, and what are things that you think that when you continue expanding, you might do in a different way?
First of all, don't try convince the customer from the certain country to buy exactly in the same way like in your mother country. I mean, we thought at the beginning that the way of the Czech customer purchase in Czechia gonna be similar to Poland. That was wrong. The Czech customer have different expectations. For example, they love to pay cash on deliveries. Most of the purchases, they pay only when they see the box. We had to change our approach, and the customer journey we have designed for this market. We had to change, and we, for example, had to find the lockers in Czechia, they have installed the terminals for payments. Unfortunately, nobody was ready to offer this one. So I'm not a logistic company, but I had to, unfortunately, install the machines, the Allegro one, in the Czech ground with the terminals. That was only to meet the customer expectations. So the way the customer purchase, the way the customer think about the purchase. In Czechia, quite often customer order the same thing from 3 places, from us and other competitors, and they wait who's gonna be the first. And they only pay to the one who is the first. The two of them are coming back to the source, to the seller.
It's an interesting business model.
So the speed is a really an important factor, right? In Poland, this is not the case. In Poland, most of the people, they prepay the purchases, so they pay on a checkout, and they are happy to wait one day.
So country by country, looking, as you're saying, into the preferences and try to see what you can bring from the original country, but also adapting to the new country. Not directly a competitor, but this entire space of C2C, consumer to consumer, and second-hand used type of in particular in the fashion industry, that we are seeing major platforms growing significantly. Do you see that space of C2C as an opportunity for Allegro or a threat?
Definitely, it's opportunity. I think that first of all, the ESG waste management is something which, I mean, all of us are committed to be part of, right? And to work on. So we call it e-commerce. So how to use and sell the used things, not only the clothes, right? The fashion industry is doing, but also the electronic, for example, right? And at Allegro, we have the Allegro core platform, and we have Allegro Localia. This is the place for non-professional sellers and to sell, for example, the used things. But we want to improve it, and we want to create the new platform, for example, dedicated for electronics. So you got the present, you have some radio or I don't know, whatever, but you don't like it anymore. You can just sell it back, and the somebody will use it. But you as a new buyer will have a certainty that gonna be a well-working thing. It is checked, and this is, in case you change your mind, you can send back.
Interesting. Very good. The only purpose of a business is to acquire and retain customers. And of course, all of that is through customer experience. So fully committed to continue, of course, enhancing the customer experience from a logistics point of view. So last two questions to wrap it up, going back to, so we covered a little bit of your, original career with customer experience. We went through all the journey related to Allegro. I'm very glad to see it. Of course, that is very close to your heart. So going back to you, two last questions. The first one is, what do you do to re-energize every single day? You have a very demanding job. I'm pretty sure that every single day you have something going on, either from a logistics perspective, IT perspective, security perspective, customers. I'm pretty sure that you are dealing every single day with a lot of challenges. So how do you do to renew, re-energize, and come the following morning fresh and ready to fight?
I play tennis. I'm still a beginner, although playing for a couple of years, but this is not an easy sport. So I love to do it. And this is something which clears my mind in the evenings. I start 8 p.m. I play 1.5 an hour, but this is great.
You play every single day tennis or not?
Every second day.
Every second day.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, next time we do a tennis match.
And the other thing is I'm a sports shooter. So I like this competition as well. This is something which requires to be precise, to be calm, to really clean your head before you shoot for safety reason. If you're in a position to shoot, then you need to be really, really focused on only this thing, right?
Yeah, that might require a lot of calming down and breathing and making sure that you are very stable.
Yes.
That's great. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And also the last question is, any books that you have read, that you're reading or that you have read in the last 12 months that have inspired you, that you would like to share with the audience?
I brought here Duna because this is about the future. I like the books and the stories about not the present, but about what can happen in the future. And of course, I know this is not real story, but this is great inspiration for me.
I watched the movie and it was remarkable. I really liked it. Really futuristic view of what might happen. So, Jakub, thank you very much for your time. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for all the trust in our business as well. I'm looking forward to many more conversations and maybe in the future a tennis match. I wouldn't say shooting because I'm not a good shooter, but maybe we can do a tennis match in the future if you want. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.